he's holding like 4 clubs. He's holding 4 clubs trying to figure this out because you didn't know which one he was going to hit. Did you? No idea, but you figured it out now.
Did you?
Yeah.
Benny Betts is on the scene with Xander Schauffele at the BMW Championship. Get the inside information. This is key stats on Golfbet. All the things you need to know to figure out how to make your picks at Castle Pines. Benny, you're on the fairway walking with Xander and Patrick. First observations of this course. What do you think about this place?
Mate, this place is insane. I'm only on the first hole, and it's a massive elevation drop. We've just gone from the tee box, hit smashing drivers. It felt like 1,000 yards. We're still walking downhill. But these boys are about to show us what they've got. We've got Cantlay in the rough. He's going to have to see if he can hit something out of the rough there. And we've got Xander in the fairway with 4 clubs. 4 clubs on this par 5. He doesn't know which one to use. Got the TrackMan out. We'll head over there in a second. But he doesn't know which one to use. That's how crazy it is at this elevation and at this altitude. They've got to figure it out. They're in homework mode. So the key stats that matter, they're figuring it out as much as we are.
We've got all the information you need to know on a very unique course. Castle Pines has not hosted a PGA Tour event. What to expect? What homework do you need to do to pick your winners? And Ben, let's start with this. Do you really put stock into maybe Hideki Matsuyama winning again? Because look at this list of players who have won 2 times in the playoffs in the same event. 12 different times since 2007. So history would say Hideki Matsuyama, if he doesn't win this week, maybe he wins the Tour Championship. So a lot of different ways to look at this week.
100%, Chris. Yeah, it's there for the taking. Momentum matters in the playoffs. We saw it with Victor Hovland last year. We saw it the year before. It keeps happening. Rory's done it. Jason Day's done it. Like, it happens. So we have to keep eyes on Hideki Matsuyama. If not this week, next, like you said, or whoever wins this week, well, maybe you need to be on him for the Tour Championship. As you can see here, what they're doing here in their practice rounds is he's got the TrackMan out. He's figuring out his yardages here on the course. I mean, this is important stuff for him. I'm going to try to get a little closer but be quiet, as I said, because they're working here. They're trying to work out these numbers. This is Monday, and Xander's dialing it in.
So again, Xander's just figuring out how far he wants to fly the ball at this course compared to what he would do on any other course that plays at sea level. These guys really have to figure it out throughout the entire week, and getting in early is going to be very important to that.
Yeah, 100%. This is their homework, right? This is his job. He's figuring out what it is that's going to be the difference. And they've got all the bells and whistles. TrackMan will tell you. I remember it was a long time ago, but I wrote a story with the bosses at TrackMan before we went to Mexico for the first time. And you can see here, look, he's holding like 4 clubs. He's holding 4 clubs trying to figure this out because you didn't know which one he was going to hit. Did you? No idea, but you figured it out now.
Did you?
Yeah. As you can see, this is homework, though. He's got to figure it out. We don't know anything about this course. They're learning it as well, and that's how we roll. Yeah. That's how we roll there until he had 4 clubs there, figuring out which one to hit into this par 5. How often do you see that? You're not going to see that last week, for example. You're not going to see him last week sitting there with 4, 5, 6, or 7, or whatever he had there in his hand to try to hit an approach shot into a par 5. He's grinding.
We are going to get into what the rough and the struggles are like around the green. Scrambling was big last week. Scrambling was our key stat last week in Memphis. Hideki was first in strokes gained around the green, and he was 4th in scrambling the entire year. So take that for what it is. We're going to talk about play around the green in a minute. But Ben, let's go to this now. We did the research, and here it is. You don't have to play great the week before at St. Jude if you're going to play great here. Just because, it's very different from what it was like when we were picking the Open, the 3M Open, the Wyndham. You wanted guys who had been playing great recently, but look at these numbers. I mean, almost nobody on this list, the last 2 years of the BMW Championship top 5, how they did the week before in the playoffs at FedEx St. Jude's, almost none of these guys did any good the week before. That means one thing when we're talking about these favorites you want to bet on this week.
Well, here's the thing. I think that the FedEx St. Jude Championship gives the guys at the top a chance to take a breather if they need to, right? If they start poorly, they don't have to put their foot down. Now, the outlier, obviously, Xander Schauffele finished runner-up yesterday. And he didn't necessarily need to, except for the fact that he's a bulldog and he wants to get in front of Scheffler and he wants to beat him at the Tour Championship. But if you look at the other end of the leaderboard, you might think, oh, Rory McIlroy, he was second last, he must be in bad form, or even Ludwig Aberg might be struggling this week. That doesn't mean anything. You can wipe that one out in terms of current form, and you can say this is a new 2-week push, and that's what it is. It's almost like having sort of back-to-back majors, in a way, right? Now they're ready to peak. Now the big guns come out. Now they try to get on their run. Momentum does matter. We mentioned it with Hideki. I still think that, as I said, Xander Schauffele's carrying it as well. You don't want to be burnt out, but I don't think these guys are, right? I think that now you'll see the real stars step up. And I think the next 2 winners are going to be names that you have all heard of many times over.
And let's be clear, we're talking about just the week before at St. Jude. I mean, you need somebody who's been playing well recently.
Correct.
In the last month or two. Like, let's take, for example, Max Homa, who's clearly not in the top of his game. He's trying to find a way to get there. Him struggling last week is way different than Rory McIlroy struggling last week. So just know the difference. Just because your guy didn't play great at St. Jude, it's okay. He can do really well here, and the stats of the last few years have proved that. When you get a chance, Ben, let's get you on close to one of these greens. Doesn't need to be with Xander or Patrick. I want to show the viewers, what these players are going to be facing around these greens, because we're talking total driving and we're talking scrambling around the greens as our 2 big key stats this week.
All right, so I'm here at the first green, and I'm going to try to throw this golf ball sort of over the back of my head and see if you guys can see it land, or I'm going to show you how it gets juicy after that. But we're right near the green, as you see. There's a deep bunker. If you look over here, right, I'll show you the difference. This one is a good lie, believe it or not. You can see that. It's not too bad. But look, if we had just gone here, now you cannot see that ball unless you're right over the top of it. So there's some juicy stuff here. There's some juicy rough around the green. So going for it, you're bringing that into play. You might have to chop it up and around and figure out, just how much this grass is going to grab. So it's not completely easy. It's not, it's not just a walk in the park. They'll be aiming for the bunkers rather than this grass, let me tell you.
Benny Betts is on the scene to give all of the important information. And from the numbers we've looked at on this course, driving the ball well enough is very important. The fairways are going to be wider. There is going to be penalty areas, 10 water hazards in play on 10 holes out of the 18 holes.
Well, before we talk about it, I reckon we should just get in here and watch Xander Schauffele hit this first drive. It's going to be brilliant. He's smiling at me because he can hear me talk, and I'll try to quieten down. But just check this out because it's going to be important this week. Here he goes. Absolutely mashed that. Absolutely mashed that. It's starting to drift left. It feels like it's going 485 yards. It's just still flying. Still hasn't landed. Now it's landed. That's how much carry on this first tee you've got. That was a long time while we waited. But yeah, you're right. Look, total driving is going to be massive here, right? Because you want to be in the fairways. You want to be attacking these greens. Evidently, when you've got these altitude courses, you got to dial in your numbers, and you're going to give yourself enough birdie chances if you do, right? So they've got to get it in play first. Schauffele's obviously been in great form with that club, absolute superstar. And they are going to ride in a cart while I walk down. So we'll hopefully catch them as we go down. But I'm literally going down what feels like, 1,000 feet on this first hole. If not more, I don't know, it feels forever. It's brilliant. But yeah, look, they're going to have to get it in play. It's as simple as that, like you spoke about. And I really found it, we talked about momentum with Hideki. I think it's really important that Xander Schauffele had that big final round and pushed. And, obviously you don't think he thought he was going to win. Don't think he thought Hideki was going to come back like he did. But it gives him that momentum as he tries to, chase down Scheffler, if you will, in the points and get things going. If Hideki doesn't win this week, whoever does win, you cannot count them out for next week. We saw Victor Hovland do it last year. We've seen countless guys win two events in the playoffs. It's right there for the taking if you get the momentum, and I think Xander knows that, and maybe we'll get him to talk about it in a little while.
It's not ironic that when you come to a venue like this, the BMW Championship, no matter where it's been played all over the map in the United States, we're getting big-time winners, Ben. And it's not ironic that total driving is a big key. We have all those stars on that first page of that board of total driving stats on PGA Tour in that field. That is a big deal. Now, when you walk, I'm going to let you keep walking down this first fairway. We're going to do a flyover of some of these holes at Castle Pines. Now, when you talk about 8,100 yards, longest course in Tour history, take that with a grain of salt, though, because the ball is going to go 10% farther because of the elevation, 6,000 feet in the air. So take off 10% of that yardage, you're looking at about a 7,300-yard golf course.
Yeah, let me tell you this. The other person I spoke to just on the range before we started this was Matt Fitzpatrick, who's had success in the Swiss Alps before playing on the DP World Tour, which is important. And he said, like, the key, really, and we found this when they had the WGC in Mexico City as well at altitude, the key is all these guys dialing in their numbers on the range, figuring that out for a start, but then they still have to figure out the elevation change as well, right? As I said, it's okay here on the first. You smash a driver as far as you can and you go for it. But if you've got approach shots that are going up or downhill, especially, then you not only have to know how far your stock standard clubs are going, but how much you have to, adjust for said elevation. So it really is a thinking man's game. In fact, I think Patrick Cantlay said to me, if you're looking for a stat, look for strokes gained intelligence this week, because the guy can do, or strokes gained math, that the guy who can get that figured out is going to be the guy who's dialed in and playing well all 4 days.
It almost feels like a resort-type course. Now, resort courses are known to be easy. This is not going to be easy, obviously, but the wider fairways, all those penalty areas, those great views, the undulations, resort-type golf is what I tend to think about with this. Now, is it going to be a bomber's paradise is the question, because you're now just getting a first-hand view of what kind of trouble is out there on this course. Can these guys miss it 10 yards offline, 15 yards offline, and still be okay, or is it more narrow than that?
Well, this first one's got heaps of room. This is going to be Eagle Central, I think, depending on how far they've got in, which we'll find on this second shot. It's a wide fairway. There is graduated rough on the side. I'll try to get you over here. And to be fair, if you do miss, it's deep. It's lush at the moment. I don't know if they have plans to cut it, but if you miss this absolutely massive wide fairway, you are going to be in trouble.
Okay, so let's go back to the whole driving aspect, because this is a good example here, Ben, about how you can miss the ball off the fairway, okay, but not too much. Why is that important here behind you?
Yeah, you can see on the second, on the right side, protecting the green as well, because it's another downhill tee shot with elevation change, that you've got a pond penalty area. So you don't want to take off too much, and you don't want to try to be a hero, even if they move the tee up a little bit and try to drive the screen, because you've got that on the right side. On the left side, this one's much narrower than the first hole that we saw. So they really do have to kind of lay back here. Don't get in the rough on the left side, because if you're in that deep rough that we showed, then you're trying to gouge out with water on the right. And the screen, it's hard for you guys to tell here, but it's very narrow and it's shaved on the edges there into the pond as well. So this is definitely a driving, total driving accuracy situation. You will lay back and be in the fairway rather than trying to bite off more and get yourself a smaller wedge. Even though these guys have done it perfect, they sit there, they're just lob wedging this in from here and giving themselves, well, actually, Xander is spinning it back. So he went very close to spinning that back into the water without much hassle, right? So there is a little bit of danger there, even from the fairway.
So the more you see the course, Ben, the fairways look very wide. I'm guessing, are they over 30 yards wide on average? Because they look huge.
Yeah, it'd be my best guess, Chris. As I said, I'm just here on the third now, and there are parts where it pinches in a little bit, obviously where they may hit to, but they can choose. It looks like there's plenty of room. You're right in that it has that feeling of resort-type course in that regard, where, if you miss, you've really missed. You've had a bit of a shocker. And look, it just depends how aggressive you want to be, though, because you know that guys are going to be shooting for low scores, right? They're trying to get to the Tour Championship. They're trying to get their score at the Tour Championship in a position as high as it can be. So if you use this one, for instance, again, I don't know how much you guys can see, but the third, if you look down here on the left side is the pond. So if you're taking on the water to get the angle, you've got that. And there's also a random tree in the fairway that is blocking off certain angles, but you've got heaps of room to the right. You're just going to have a longer shot in. Now, for these guys, though, that longer shot is cake, right? Like for the resort player, that's why this is designed that way. You're going to end up out there on the right. You're going to have a longer shot in, which is tough for us. But these guys, it's probably going to be money, right? So they will take the more aggressive lines and then potentially bring some of the trouble into play.
Benny, we could watch Xander and Patrick play for the next 5 hours. We'd love that, but let's go let them do their job. How about that?
Yeah, good idea. Let's let these guys finish off. They've been practicing hard. I'm in the way. I'm being a pest. But don't be surprised if you see these two legends at the pointy end of the leaderboard at the end of the week.